Bonsoir, mon chers. Good evening. How's everybody's day been? I'm waiting. Mine was good. Yeah, I went into work and the shift was like exactly what I wanted. I set the intention before I went in. I'm like now the wizard of my life. It's become like a practice and almost a game. Every shift I go in, I just decide like, okay, this is the pace that I'm wanting. This is like the kind of tables I'm wanting. And it's been really actually working out perfectly. So tonight was very chill, just high quality, high value, people in good moods. I had a table or a section on the patio. So I got to like be near the fountain and the statues. And it's like kind of like this like weird labyrinth fairy garden that looks like beings are trying to like suck you in and like still you into their little fairy world. That's the vibe of our patio at work, and of course I enjoy that a lot. So yeah, I came in and I was like, gosh, what are we going to talk about tonight? And I really didn't know. And I was like, should we pull cards? And I feel like we've been set up really well for the week with the weekly energy forecast, talking about, being able to, go forth and create what we want and dream about what we want, get really clear about that, about how we think about it, imagine it, and speak it into being. And we're going through this new cycle, but we're also circling back around something again, but in a new way. And that's part of the cycles card from the weekly forecast. And then on Monday, we actually got the Magician, which was really interesting. I didn't realize this till later, but a couple of days ago, I haven't told you guys this yet, I was invited to be on a podcast, on a Culture Shock podcast. And it's somebody that I had known through work, and we'd worked together many years ago and just kept in touch kind of distantly over social media. And he's a kindred spirit and had a podcast and wanted to talk magic. And so that episode that I was on a few days ago premiered on Monday. And our whole conversation was about being the magician and the discipline and the journey of the magician and all things magic. So I thought it was really funny that we ended up pulling magician for Monday. So now we are on Tuesday, and I thought something told me to grab my little smartass journal and I, jot down video ideas when I am, when they just hit me randomly. So this was one that I felt was very poignant because during our Secret Teachings of Jesus sermons, late Saturday nights, the portions that we've been reading from the book of James, Jesus keeps circling around this topic of, like, he keeps having this experience where his disciples are like, what do you want us to do, Jesus? Like, what does God want us to do? Like, we did what you said, and we, like, rebelled against our parents. And he keeps trying to explain to them, like, you're not really, like, slaying any dragons by just, like, doing what you're told and being obedient. Like, you have to own your own power. You have to own your own sovereignty. You need to use your free will. That's what makes you above the angels. Like, we are working on self-mastery so that when we use our free will will lead us to our greater, more divine nature rather than our shadow nature. But at the same time, and we want guidance, heavenly guidance for that. But we don't want to necessarily be told exactly what to do, because then you're not using your free will. So it's like you have to come to the right decision by your own wherewithal, or else it kind of doesn't count. And it's, if you have to rebel against someone or put some skin into the game, like, even better. So Jesus is trying to get them to understand that it doesn't quite have the same effect if they're just going around being robotic and, like, being like, okay, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, it's like it's not, like, and no human dynamic is that ever, like, respectable or attractive anyway. And so, like, why would it's so weird, the assumptions that we make, the way that we understand things. And then when you think about, well, what does that say about the God you believe in? Like what are you assuming that this beingness is like? It's like almost like this like really psycho person when you start like just picking apart these like small things that we take for granted. Like, oh, if I don't obey, like ask every single thing, you know, if it's okay if I do this, you know. What we want is to realize that there's like there are things that are set aside almost like in a spiritual bank account waiting for us that are like destined and meant for us and us alone. And because it's the most authentically true to us, we'll appreciate it the most. It's most on brand for us and us alone. And it doesn't, it's not right for the other person. And wanting something that someone else has, that's not right for me. And so it's never gonna deliver the way I want it to. I am a weirdo. I see other people have things going on for themselves that goes for, they look like they're having a great time. And sometimes I think like, man, maybe I should have that too. But then I'm like, no, I'm like this strange oddball. And I'm like, I love that. But I'm not like basic Brittany. I'm not the same as her. Like, that's not going to be satisfying for me, right? So I only want what's really mine. What's really mine. It's got my name on it. It's got my universal stamp on it. And it's in my, what Abraham Hicks would call your vibrational escroll. Like, everything that is going to be yours is already yours. It's just like that. Okay, for instance, this is a fun way I think about this. I think about the grocery store, and like every time I'm in there, I'm like, this is all mine. I just don't need it today, kind of thing, right? So it's like everything that's going to be yours, that ever has been yours, that ever will be yours, is already yours. That's already sitting and waiting for you. It's just that you haven't needed to reach for it yet. And the moment that you need to reach for it, it'll be there, right? I got sidetracked and I got off topic, but I feel like it's going to circle back around. And I had a point, but I'm like, I've worked several days in a row and I'm a little frazzled, so I can't remember the point I was making and all that. But good information either way, right? I think. So the point I was getting at was that, you know, Jesus has been talking about wanting people to, oh yeah, that's right, because we're wanting to choose what's for us, and know how to make those decisions and be in alignment with the divine will, but also be able to make our own sovereign choices. So I will read what I wrote in the journal about this, and then we will unpack it a little bit. So I can't even use words right now. I'm just like, I'm okay, I swear. All right, so the balance between choosing the will of God and using your own free will. What if what is required of us is not simply surrendering to the will of God and passively obeying and waiting for God to choose for us? What if what is being asked of us is to make the choice using our own free will? At first, we find ourselves asking, what do you want me to do, God? This evolves into us using our heart, soul, mind, and discernment to choose what we sense is the wisest and best choice for us. And this grows into asking God to support you in your compassion, your certainty, your love, and your wisdom to make the choice that is in the highest good of all. You ask for strength and guidance to the most divine outcome. And it's not because you're being obedient and doing what you're supposed to. And it's not because you know God's plan will get us the best of the best. It's because we have finally arrived at a place where we know that to be like divine, like the light, like God, we must use our free will and genuinely want only what is destined to be ours and what is in the highest good of all. This is an act of sovereignty, strength, sharing, and leadership. So yeah, it's not really about being obedient. It's about being awakened and open enough in your heart and conscious enough to say, okay, I'm going to choose for myself. So please help me be the most compassionate I can be right now in this choice. Help me to have the highest sense of self-worth. that I can have when I make this choice. Help me to have certainty and faith when I make this choice that whatever I do, I'm going all in and I'm not looking back. You know, I'm not going to have that messy cut. I want a clean cut. I want to make those killer instinct kind of decisions and be very decisive and be certain about what I'm choosing, without feeling wishy-washy or not knowing which way to go or having regret. So it's like you start praying for the virtue, I guess, the moral aptitude, the wherewithal to be able to make the right choice based on unconditional love, based on with the wisdom and experience that you've lived and learned and know, based on grace, mercy. There was something that happened earlier today, and it was because of it being in text message and like some typo happening, and then like somebody following up, but they didn't say like, oh, a typo. They just like were corrected, and then they like said something like exacerbated about themselves. And it wasn't clear, like, it wasn't clear that was what was being said at first. At first, it sounded like they were being, like, kind of, like, weird and aggressive and pushy with me. And it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, hell no. Like, no, you didn't just do that. No, you don't come at me like that. But you're like, you have to stop. You have to be like, you know what? No. I do not want to be like, go buck here. Like, I want to like handle this gracefully. Even it could be a misunderstanding. And even if it's not, like, don't burn a bridge. Just always be graceful. Then no regrets, right? You can handle things gracefully. And so I went against my feistier nature, and it's great because as it turns out it was totally like a typo, and it was like misinterpreted because it was in text and you can't hear a tone, so it was one of those things where you could like easily misread it. And so I was like, oh my God, thank you God for the grace in that moment that I didn't just do something horrible or say something horrible because I'm just tired and like I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It just seems like who would come at you like that anyway? But yeah. So it's like you get to a point where you're conscious enough where you're praying for strength and courage and the ability to like know the truth for yourself, what you truly want, what's truly going to make you happy. And you're not trying to ask somebody to tell you what to do. Hey, can you tell me the answer to the test so it's extra easy and I never fail and I never mess up and I never make a mistake and I get to live in perfect harmony and comfort forever and never regret a choice and never think, maybe I should have chose differently. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get to learn or grow when everything goes perfectly and you just ace it every time and everything is just put on a silver platter for it to be easy. It just doesn't. So yeah, and then part of our life's challenge, and then this is part of our soul correction and the work that we do in our soul as we're here in each carnation. We have our higher self, like an angel, version of ourself, the higher goodness, the one that leans toward the light on like our right shoulder, the shoulder of mercy. And then we have like our shadow self, our ego, our self-defeating tendencies, the part of us that's most vulnerable to the influence of the dark side on our left shoulder. And that's the side of judgment. And it's almost like the cartoons depict. And it's like these two things are coming at you all the time. I was recently listening to someone who was very concerned about the devil and whether or not the devil was real and how we understood the devil. The devil is like an enemy and he's coming to get you. And it's like, you still don't understand because you think the devil is something outside of you. I mean, it can be. It's a force that is always opposing you, trying to get you to trip up, but that's for your own evolvement. Things can't evolve without pressure. That's true in Darwinism. That's true in spirituality. So that energy is always at work, yes, But it's not necessarily something that's coming outside of you that's coming to trick you and like wearing like stealing someone's flesh suit and like, you know what I mean, and like coming to get you, like in the movies. It's the voice that's tricking you from the inside, like up here. Like it's the thing that like, I don't know, when you're tired and your like willpower is low. It's not. It's everywhere, you know what I mean? But so is the goodness. So it's about being able to consider, like being able to hear all that noise trying to get you to the wrong thing and being able to be like, yeah, I mean, that is really tempting. And then this all sounds nice. What do I want? Okay, what is the best, highest potential for the expression of my unique self? Because God is experiencing the divine, the light, the eternal beingness that has this uniform consciousness that runs through everything, is experiencing life through our physicalness being here, experiencing it through our consciousness. And no one can ever do it the same way. I am uniquely different from you, and you are uniquely different from the next person. And so each of our lives can't be replicated, and our perspectives can't be replicated. So it's important that we do make our own choice, because this is us embodying the divine's experience that we're sharing with the divine. It's like we're co-creating this for each other. It's like the divine is like, hey, look at all this wonderful magical world out here. Isn't it grand? Doesn't this like excite you? And we're like, yeah. And we're like, watch us go through our soap opera and you're going to be really entertained and excited down here. But yeah, so we work on it. We eventually start making choices that seem to align with like our deepest values and passions and what makes us us, and what, you know, really, I don't know, grooves with our quirks, I guess. But yeah, I think that's enough to chew on. So yeah, just remember that it's more important that we're making sovereign decisions that are in alignment with divinity and with us having an affinity of form with the divine, and asking for support in making those choices. So maybe don't ask to be told what to do. I mean, yes, show me the way, open up the path. I want to know your ideas on this, but take some ownership in the process, and take some ownership over what you want, and take some ownership over what you're afraid will happen, and be willing to be responsible for the choice you make. And then you start becoming the leader of your life and, you know, having sovereignty. All right, guys, I'm tired. I feel insane. I don't know if any of that made sense. I hope it did. Yeah, have a good day tomorrow. I'm going to have a day off, and I'm going to do like, you know, all the wonderful things you do to reset the kingdom so you can really relax. A little spring clean, probably a good run, maybe like a stroll through the forest, and probably a hot bath. That'd be nice. All right, ciao, bye.